I hate to tell you this, you don't know everything. And when it comes to retirement, that can be a problem, especially when you realize you don't know what the game plan is for those so-called golden years, and you don't understand the rules with TIAA. So Greg Shepard, are there some options here?
Yes, Patrice, there are. And that's the crux of the problem, to be honest. Maybe one would say too many options, too many tangents to go down. I tell you what, this has been an episode that's been on my mind for a long time. Actually,
Why?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll preface by telling you, I told my wife that I was going to do this topic, and the first words out of her mouth were, "You better behave yourself." And of course, she says that jokingly, but I've been doing this a long time. Okay, we're going to get into the meat of this conversation, but I've been doing this a long time. And I have stories upon stories as to tangents I can take that are suitable. Well, some of it's suitable. Most of it may not be for this particular episode. Okay, I come home and I tell my wife, these colorful stories, and sometimes I use colorful language. And I've gotten to the point, Patrice, where I've been doing this for 24 years. I'm 49 years old, right? And I've gotten to the point, in a good way, in my opinion. My clients love me for this. I don't really beat around the bush. Now, there's not really a gray area, especially when it comes to this industry. There can't be a gray area. And we're going to get to the meat of this conversation here in just a second. But again, I'll go back to the point where I've been doing this for 24 years. And I used to be this way that I'm about to speak about, where there's a lot of folks in my industry that tell you what you want to hear. Let's not fool ourselves. I am a financial advisor. I'm an investment advisor. There is a lot of sales that goes on in my industry. All right. That's why I alluded to the fact that a lot of folks in my industry will tell you what you want to hear. Now, let's go back to your question. Are there other options? Other options, meaning the question, again, stems from retirement planning.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is yes, there are other options. Now, in my, we'll call it recent tenure here doing what I do, I think there's two prominent options that folks or path that these folks are taking. One, they're coming up to retirement. All of a sudden they say, oh crap, I've got to figure this out. I'm a year away. I don't know what I'm doing. Let me contact where my money sits now. Typically, we're dealing with higher ed and medical professionals, so TIAA, and let me hear what they had to say. Now, if we stick on that path, what typically happens more times than not is that, TIAA is a great company. Don't get me wrong. I'll never bash TIAA. That's not what we're doing here. But the person that you speak to over at TIAA, their job is to keep your money at TIAA. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they're going to make it sound like whatever they're selling you is the path for you to take. And you don't know any better. Okay. You being all the folks out there watching and hearing. I'm sorry to bruise your ego, but 9.5 out of 10 folks that I deal with, talk to, you do not know what you're talking about. Okay. Again, I hate to break it to you. You just don't. I'm gonna go off on a lot of. Okay, Patrice, hang tight here. Okay, are you ready? Hold on.
Go for it.
One of the stories I tell, and I'm gonna come back to some other stories that are real life scenarios with folks I've talked to in the last 2 weeks. I do this for a living, right? I'm a financial advisor. I'm better than pretty good at taxes. Okay, I know more than enough to be dangerous. And I've always done my own taxes up until about 2 years ago. And I thought I was pretty good at it, right? There's a lot of tools at your disposal, and just absorbing knowledge over the course of 20 some odd years. And I have clients that are CPAs and all this fun stuff. Okay. So I've done my taxes for the longest time. I was introduced to a certain CPA and he said, Greg, you don't know everything. And I remember this to the T, that I was taking a drink of water and I actually spit the water up thinking that what's this guy talking about? Of course, taxes aren't that hard. And he said, let's shoot it over to me. Shoot me your last return and let me dig through it. And I'll tell you what I think. And of course I said, no problem. Doesn't cost me anything. And I did so. He responded to me the next day and said, Greg, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Ooh. And he was pretty blunt about it. And a bruised ego. Sorry for the little French there, but we're trying to bring this home, okay? And I told my wife how bruised of an ego I had. And lo and behold, I turned all my taxes over to this individual, saved me thousands of dollars going forward. And I couldn't thank him enough for that moment in time that he humbled me, told me flat out that I didn't know what I was doing to a degree. Of course, I know what I'm doing, but not to the degree that is more advantageous, monetarily speaking. Okay. He did things to my return that I never would have even thought of because I don't know what I don't know. All right. Now, so since then, I've been using this person, saving me, Lord knows how much, thousands of dollars per year. And I welcome the fee that he charges because that comes into play here in just a bit. He's not free. Trust me, he's not free. And I'm willing to pay that. Now, fast forward to now. Okay, so you folks out there listening and watching, you got two paths that typically that you're taking. You're going to deal with TIAA directly. You're not going to know really what in the world they're talking about, but it sounds good, lifetime income, all that fun stuff. Usually it's not the most advantageous monetarily speaking for the path for you to take. Now, a lot of other folks are going to DIY. All right. Now, I have come to learn about you folks out there over the course of time. You DIYers, you're great, right? That was me in the accounting world. And I already told you how that turned out. Let me ask you a question, Patrice. You can answer it. That's fine. It's not a literal question, but if you were retiring, okay, would you go out and hire a specific person to handle the largest, your nest egg that is so vital to you retiring? You hire a person that doesn't know what certain investments are, doesn't understand how interest is driven from certain investments, and not necessarily sure how to extract from certain accounts from a tax perspective. So would you engage in that person's services to navigate your retirement life?
The way you describe it, no.
Of course not, right? But that's what these people are doing. They're hiring themselves because they either think they're saving $1. Well, they are. They're saving money,
but they're not necessarily saving it though. In the long run.
Yeah, you're beating me to the punch. Of course, right. Of course. So, case in point, okay. And again, I didn't really have this rehearsed, but I talked to a couple last week. So we do a Zoom call. It's both of them, married couple. He's a very intelligent person. Well, they both are. They both are, okay? And he's the one that initiated the phone call or the Zoom call. He's retiring. Guess what? He's in the engineering department. I love these folks. I have a lot of them as clients, and a lot of them choose not to become clients for the very reason I'm going to tell you. And we're doing a Zoom call, and I can tell that he knows what he's talking about to a degree. And he lays out this game plan. A lot of these folks just kind of want to beat their chest and, kind of almost validate is a good way to put it. Validate that what they're speaking about or thinking is appropriate, if that's, lack of a better term. Laid out this game plan. And at the end, he basically, about 15, 20-minute game plan. At the end, he said, "What do you think?" And I'm not, in a joking way. No, I wasn't joking. Nope. I said, "Well, that plan sucks." And I can't be more honest.
You were Greg. You were absolutely Greg. You were straightforward.
Straightforward, not in a malicious way. And it reminded me of myself back when the CPA told me, and thankfully I look back and this person did, like, what in the hell, what are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you don't know. Now, I didn't say that to this person. I did tell him his plan sucked. And he said, well, he took a step back, and why? And I could almost like challenging him. And I said, well, I started going into certain nuances. This person didn't know what I don't expect anybody out there really to know what I'm about to say, but he didn't know what an ETF was. He didn't know how interest was driven from certain bond investments. He didn't know what types of bonds that you need to get into in a lowering Fed funds rate environment. And they're always ever shifting. So he laid out this game plan, and I said, well, that'll work in this environment. But what happens when the Fed funds rate goes down, 100 basis points? He's like, what are you talking about? What are you going to do when you get to R&D age? You need to reroute as to which accounts you're extracting from for tax liability purposes. What are you talking about? So he said, well, I've done the research on my own. I looked up videos on YouTube, I read a book. And guess what? Here's the latest. I put my scenario in AI and let AI tell me what to do. Let me pause there. That's the new DIYer's best friend. Okay. I've done this. We're not there yet with AI, meaning that you out there listening, the reason you're listening is because you have TIAA. TIAA presents itself with more complexities than your average retiree. Type in your scenario and then let AI spit out a solution for you. Do that same scenario, repeat that same scenario on a different AI bot, and then tomorrow go back to the same AI bot that you used. You will get multiple different answers for the same question. Okay? It's just not there yet. It can't understand the extraction strategies involved with TIA traditional. Trust me, folks, I've tried it. It's not there yet. Okay? So just don't do it. I can't. Mm-hmm. Don't do it. All right? Now, the other one about DIYers is that they have never paid anybody to do this for them. All right? They've gone through the accumulation phase for 40 years, and that is easy. It's not that hard, folks. It's not that hard. I can make a pretty good argument that you don't need to pay anybody during the accumulation phase. All right? When you retire and go about all the things I've spoken about during this podcast episode, you do not have the resources, the knowledge, the experience, the education associated with that, implementing that retirement plan to the best plan that could be implemented. You may think you do, but you don't. All right. Yep. I've talked to all of you. Now, very few of you will have the education and the wherewithal to do it. They're far and few between. So, to your point, to your point, Patrice, you're not saving yourself money by doing it yourself, because the most like I'm going to charge is 0.80%. You can define, or you can, how do I word this? You can relate that fee to not only investment performance, but tax savings given the accounts that you're extracting from, of which most of you folks out there don't even think about. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not only that, I view myself as a marriage therapist. Are you ready for this one?
Go ahead, because I did have a question about that couple. Go ahead.
Okay. So this couple, same couple. Okay. Same couple. He laid out his game plan. I said it sucked. It's always not the most appropriate language to use with a prospect. But again, I'm 49 years old, been doing this for 24 years. I'm done telling people what they want to hear. Okay. In a good way, folks. Okay. In a good way. And I could see her on this, she's on the Zoom call too. I can see her. And she's literally, and I know you can't really see me, but she has her hands up. She's looking at him. She doesn't have a flippin' clue as to what he and I are talking about. That's very important because he's 12 years older and he's not in good health. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't tell him this. I'm not going to get, there were two things extracted from this phone call or this Zoom call. One, I found it almost, let's call it irresponsible, that he is going to pass, most likely, very likely, he's going to pass away before her. Even if he was the best at doing what we're talking about, she's going to be left not having a clue what's going on. And the level of stress associated with that is unthinkable. And I was almost getting, like, I would never put my wife in that situation. But yet, go ahead, Patrice.
No, I was going to say that's exactly what I was going to ask. What was the wife's reaction during this conversation? It
was just that. And she even said, she was the one that asked me what I charge. And usually I want to make sure I can add value and all that stuff. But I just flat out said, hey, for your situation, it's going to be 0.80% per year. And she was like, sold. Good. So you're going to and this is the second part of what I was talking about. As a marriage counselor, I can already see it behind the scenes. The two of them were starting to bicker is a little strong, but discuss.
I like bicker.
Yeah. As married couples do, that have been married for a long time, about finances. Okay, number one reason for divorce, I think, maybe. she said out loud, she's talking to him, I'd rather have him do this for 0.80% than you and I have this conversation over a glass of wine on Wednesday night. And she said that.
All right. All right.
Now he's been very long enough to know when to,
That's enough, baby. Yes.
Yeah. And they both politely turned to me and said, "Hey, Greg, we'll discuss it." And I know what that meant. We'll discuss it. We appreciate your time and we'll get back. Now I haven't heard back from them, which is perfectly fine. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I've had other folks similar to this situation, after a year, 6 months, not a very long time, jump on a Zoom call and do a review. And usually it's, for whatever reason, it's the female, the wife that usually tells me, "Hey, Greg, you didn't," I'm really dramatic here. I wouldn't say you saved our marriage. That's not what I'm getting at. But you saved a lot of arguments. That's a better way to put it.
Stress.
You have
stress.
A lot of stress.
Yes.
And she'll say, "Joe here would stay awake all night on YouTube, reading, trying to figure out this puzzle. And he doesn't really know if he's getting it right. And he would present it to me, and then she would argue with him, and they go back and forth. Now it's just this weight lifted off their shoulders, and they're paying someone 0.80% a year, I guarantee, doing it better than how they could do it. So it's almost, you could kind of hear the irritation in my voice. I wish everybody would just at least take a step back and understand that you got to be humble enough to understand that you can't do it alone. Most folks cannot do it alone. And
I don't want to sound like I'm coming from one side or the other, although I am. Is it the men who usually feel they have to do this? Do
100%.
the women just say, "Do it, Greg, just do it"?
I say 100%. That's been my experience. I can't think of anything off any situation at the top of my head where the roles were reversed. And you can get into the psychology of that. That's not my place. Mm-hmm. Me and my wife we're the same way as well. Like the CPA, my wife's been telling me for years prior to that, "Hey, just kick it over to a CPA." And I'm like, I can handle that. She's like, "Well, it takes you so long. Just have somebody else do it." Nope, Jess, I can figure it out. I can do it. My wife's name is Jess. I can figure it out. But then I, offboarded that to CPA, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah.
So and I know what people out there are thinking. At least some of you out there. Okay, Greg, I can understand what you're saying. Now my problem is, who do I talk to? Who do I trust? Who knows this information? And so I'm not advocating, my services here, but you need to find somebody, do your due diligence, plan ahead. And let's take a step back here. Speaking of planning ahead, another irritant of mine is that folks call me, this happens all the time. Folks will call me, seek me out for what we're talking about here, retirement planning and the like. And they always say, "Well, I wish I would have found you 30, 40 years ago." Now, I wasn't doing this 30 or 40 years ago, but what they're alluding to is that they wish they had someone in their life to educate them about the markets when they were 30, when they were 25, when they were 40.
Don't we all? Yes.
Because time and time again, I'm not knocking TI Traditional, but they say, if I understood the markets, maybe when I was 25, I wouldn't have put 90% of my future paychecks, my contributions, into something that's going to get me 4% a year. I would have gone 100% of those monies in the S&P 500 or something like that. All right. So I think it's employers do a terrible job. Let's just throw it out there. They do a terrible job. It's not really their place. Let's be honest there. I don't know whose place it is, but there's such a lack of education with folks that are employed, period, about the markets and how one should invest at certain stages in their life. All right.
But that comes back to the rules with TIAA too. They're not explained. Maybe. Okay.
No, I agree.
For compliance, I say maybe.
Yeah. Right. No, they're not, because again, I get to the point where I'm done tiptoeing and, living in that gray area. When you're 30 years old and you're investing with TIAA or Fidel, it doesn't matter. let's use TIAA. You start investing as a 30-year-old in traditional. Why are you doing that? Because the colleague who's 68 years old, retiring next week, said, hey, that money's safe. You'll know where it is when you're my age. Go that direction.
Safe. Big thing. Yeah.
Safe. And we're not going to get into it right now, but all you got to do is the education. You got to, if you're educated on the markets, and this is almost a different topic, you wouldn't do that when you're 30, 40 years old.
Mm.
All right. And we want to keep this episode as somewhat short as we can. But why in the world? This is where my frustration comes from. So you spend your whole life, your career, you've amassed $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $500,000. It doesn't matter the amount of money, but you've amassed these chunks of monies earmarked specifically for the purpose of retirement. And you've done a good job through the accumulation phase. Most of you out there, at least the ones that are contacting me, have done a fabulous job. Why in the world would you want to take that on doing something that you've never done before? You never, well, for the most part, you've never retired before and tried to put together this game plan.
Mm-hmm.
It just boggles my mind that people try to do this. And most of them do it wrong. They do it wrong.
And you only get one crack at this, really.
Yeah, especially with TIAA, because just keep using the same couple here. He was trying to implement some pretty not what's the word I'm looking for? Some
creative?
Yeah, great. Yeah, of course. Creative word or creative strategy with TIAA, and that takes paperwork. And he said, well, what kind of paperwork do I need? And I was like, I tell you what, I'll just send you the paperwork. And he's writing it all down. And I told him, hey, if you submit the wrong form and they execute that paperwork, they process that paperwork, that's irrevocable. And I could see what their eyes light up. And I'm thinking to myself, why in the world would you want to take that responsibility on your own when you have people that know what they're doing and have done it hundreds of times? I'll never understand it. I'll never understand it. But I think with the advent of YouTube and resources afforded to you, that folks they think they're armed with the necessary ammo to try to put that plan in motion. And it's just, I rarely, if ever, see it done correctly.
I think one of the big issues, as you were talking about, people don't understand the markets. They don't understand finance. And it goes back to education in the schools, much less in the family. I mean, yeah, my dad taught me to write a check. Okay, fine. But I didn't learn anything about the markets until I started reading the paper.
I didn't know anything about I mean, I loved this stuff. I loved it in college. I didn't have a clue about a lot of this stuff I know now until experience really helped me. And I could see it in real life. You don't see it as a pre-retiree in real life until you're retired. You are already at a disadvantage. It's
true.
You're
and
already
the 30s and 40s that you mentioned, those are the times when you have the opportunity to not be 4% fixed.
Yeah. It's everyone. So now we're getting to the point where I'm dealing a lot with my clients' children that are 20s, well, sometimes older than that, but 20s, 30s, and 40s. And they ask me, hey, do you mind if Sally, my daughter, jumps on a phone call with you? Absolutely not. No problem. I'll spend 20 minutes with her.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big deal. Mm-hmm. And so Sally calls up and we do a phone call typically. And I'm like, hey, Sally, what are you looking for here? She's like, well, I just want to know how to invest. I'm let's say 30 years old. Like, all right, very simple. Let's look into your 401k. Do you have an S&P 500 investment? She said, yeah, but I also have this stable return. This happened. A stable return that's getting 3%, and the market just scares me. And I can't help you with that, Sally. Okay, but I can tell you is that you do your own due diligence, your own education. You 100% need to be in the S&P 500, probably all of your money. But if not all of your money, just go 90, 80, something like that, and just look at the history of the market. Okay, time is on your hands. That's an advantage for you. So it's not that difficult in the accumulation phase. You just need a little push. Ignorance is bliss in some manners.
That's true.
turn a blind eye. There's a lot of cliches we could use, and let the market do what the market does, and you'll be rewarded when the time comes at retirement.
Yeah. And that's, just a quick story. My son, who is 40, called me the other day and said, "Mom, there's this stock, and I don't know if it's good or bad." I said, "Look, if you want to put money into it, just make sure it's money you're willing to lose.
Yeah.
If you're willing to lose it, fine. Then go for it. If not, don't do it."
Yeah, and those are individual stocks. I would
that's true. That's very true.
I would relay that information to anybody as well. So if I have, Sally wanted to buy ABC stock, I would say the same thing. Hey, that's great. Just kind of use that money on the side and put whatever is, I don't know, 3%.
Your play money.
Yeah, however you want to word that, and ignore it. Let it do its thing. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. Okay, but when you start investing in ETFs and mutual funds, which is a collection of companies, it would literally take all the companies inside that ETF to go belly up for that ETF. For the most part, there's other nuances here. I get it, folks. But for the most part, for that ETF to go to zero. That ain't going to happen. If it does, we got bigger problems than Sally's and mine and your retirement plan. Something's going on, right? So there's a lack of education, both on the accumulation phase and especially those that are retiring. And sometimes they just won't come to the realization that they can't do it correctly. The best path. They just don't know how to take that best path forward.
Well, if they want to learn how to take that best path forward, how can they contact you, Greg?
Yeah, great segue there, right? I hate to promote my services, but I've done it a while.
This is a good thing.
I've done it a while. So email, probably the best, greg@shepardfinancial.com. Website is Sam Apple, financialservices.com. And that's the best way to find me.
All right. And they should be prepared for point blank.
I go easy. I talk, what is it? My bark is louder than my bite. How about that?
All right. Well, folks, get answers to your questions. Contact Greg. And follow this podcast so you know when a new show is ready for you. Please share with others as well. I'm Patrice Sikora, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to TIAA Simplified. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.safinancialservices.com or give us a call at 913-521-2381. And don't forget to click the follow button so you never miss an episode. S&A Financial Services, Inc. is a registered investment advisor. Content presented is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice or as an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Always consult with your tax advisor or attorney regarding your specific situation.